Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart, and today I will be breaking down this five-game slate we have here on Sunday. I know not a lot of people are tuned in to the NBA the past few days, obviously because of the NCAA tournament. But for those of you that are watching, I'll break down this five-game slate, talking through some of my favorite early look core plays, as well as doing a game-by-game breakdown. On a nice cashing streak here, I've cashed 5 out of the past 6 days, 1 point away from making it 6 out of 6. Yeah, looking to continue that streak. If you guys like the videos, hit that like button and subscribe. Do appreciate all the support recently, and let's get into the video. So yesterday, I made two lineups in low stakes, just because I was just watching the NCAA tournament, so I didn't really want to focus too heavily on the NBA. But here's the one that got into the cash. With TJ McConnell, he had 31 at 17% ownership. Obviously, with that Harden news, I loaded up on Maxi in this one, and I had what's his name? Tobias Harris in the other one. Should have probably had him in this one, but yeah, I load up on Maxi and Melton in this one. But yeah, Maxi 6,600, 6%, went for 48. Danny House Jr. I was just hoping you get, maybe 15 fantasy points. He only played 19 minutes, just did really nothing out there. So obviously a huge bust there at 4 fantasy points. Kuzma was great, 18%, went for 50. Bam was solid, 3%, went for 40. That game was a blowout for most of the game. Derek White, 27%. He was okay, 26. Melton, 37%. Obviously went off for 41. And then Van Fleet, 8%, went for 46. So another day of cashing, past 5 out of 6 days of cashing. So looking to continue the great streak right now. I think there's big money on the way. I think I'm going to get a takedown one of these days here. Um, Hopefully it's tomorrow. Hopefully the prize pool goes back up to 100K. Right now it's 50, so I haven't been entering it, but I think if it's 100K tomorrow, I'm gonna enter it. And I'm feeling a takedown, guys. I'm feeling a takedown. So starting off with this 5 game slate, we're starting off with Miami and Detroit. Obviously, we get a fantastic matchup here for Miami. They're coming off of a back-to-back. Did they play 3 games in a row? No. So they're coming off of back-to-back with Chicago last night. Obviously, Jimmy, Bam, Tyler, they all look fantastic in this matchup. Hopefully, this game stays close. I think that's what you're kind of hoping for if you're going to take some Miami guys. But if I had to get to two, it'd probably be Bam and Tyler. I know Jimmy's kind of been the safest recently. Obviously, had a little bit of a letdown there versus Chicago. But before that, as you can see, he was averaging like 45 plus fantasy points over the past like 7, 8 games. So he's decent, but I prefer just getting to Bam and Tyler at their price tags. Bam's been pretty solid recently. Same thing with Tyler Hero. He's been kind of up and down. He's the most volatile, but I just love the matchup here for Bam. So I think I'm going to go back to the well here with Bam, back-to-back nights. The rest of the team, I think Kyle Lowry should be back, so that kind of hurts the minutes for Gabe Vincent, for Victor Oladipo, even Max Strus. If you want to go to some value plays, you could definitely take a shot on Kevin Love, even though he's only seen 20 minutes, not really involved. And then Kyle Lowry, I guess you could take a shot on him. His minutes are kind of all over the place. He did see 36 minutes in that first game back, but then I think they were eliminating him. Only saw 19 and then 20. So I think we can kind of expect around 20 at 4,500. Don't think there's a need to get to him. And then Caleb Martin, he's kind of an okay value play. Sees about 30 minutes a game. He can have those games where he does very well, but it's just more of a dart throw. And at that price tag, it just doesn't feel great to get into a guy 4,500 who might get you like 5 to 10 fantasy points when that's pretty expensive for a guy who has that low of a floor. So right now, I'd say just stick with the main three. Moving on to the Detroit side. So we have Ivy 6,900, Bagley 6,800, Killian Hayes, Wiseman. The whole team's pretty much back besides obviously Stewart, Diallo, Burks, and Bogdan, but they do get Bagley back. They do get Ivy back. So right now at their price tags, I think everyone's pretty expensive. Like you can land on Ivy, you can land on Bagley. Like these guys have ceilings, but you just don't feel great about it. They're all priced up a little bit too high for me in this matchup here versus Miami, which obviously I think everyone's going to have that mindset. So it will make them contrarian if you want to land on them. But for that reason, I just don't think there's enough upside for these guys in the 6K range to really pay off their price tags. Now that, Ivy's back, Bagley's back, Hayes is back, Wise is back, they're all going to eat into their own usage. Magruder, he's priced up. I think my favorite one, kind of like last slate, is going to be Duran. He went for 43 last slate, saw 27 minutes. Now that Bagley's back, maybe it hurts his minutes a tad, but I still think he sees at least 20 off the bench. And he's been super productive recently. As you can see, the past 4 games, minutes haven't been great, but he's still been getting there 36, 36, 20, and 43. So I like taking a shot on him if you want a piece from this game at 5,400. Moving on to the Pelicans here, they get a fantastic matchup against Houston. We saw the other day They played them, and these guys were pretty low owned. Like Brandon Ingram was like I think like 8%, something around there. He went for 46.5. So same matchup. I really like Brandon Ingram. I really like CJ. I think they both look great. CJ obviously will be the lower owned of the two. In terms of the other guys, I mean, J-Val, I told you guys about J-Val. Really liked him. He's super risky. He went for 30 or 52 fantasy points, put up a huge double double, 22-17 with 4 blocks. He was fantastic for me at 1% ownership. It'll be interesting to see how many people chase this box score here. I still think he looks very, very solid. Obviously, the matchup's the same. His price only went up to 6,100. But if he's going to be like 25-30% owned on this small slate, I think there's definitely a good shot that he might fail just because he never seems to do well when he's chalk. And he can easily get in foul trouble, which could easily just destroy his minutes. So he is definitely still super risky, but I still have a good amount of interest in him. In the rest of the team, no real strong standouts to me. I guess Josh Richardson looks like an okay value. You can always get to Larry Nance and hope that J-Val gets in foul trouble. He will get extended. But that's really it. It's really just kind of Ingram, CJ for me are the safest. J-Val is super risky, but a solid GPP play depending on ownership. And then J. Rich looks like an okay value. I guess Marshall's been getting minutes as well, so you can definitely look to him, but it's really just kind of the main guys. On the Houston side here, KPJ has kind of been the best of the bunch so far. He's been super solid the past few games, seeing huge minutes. So I do like these Rockets guys. They're just seeing a ton of minutes. Of course, Jalen Green goes for 44 after he gave me 21.5. That's super frustrating, but we're not getting them at like amazing price tags, but they have very solid upside just because they're playing a ton of minutes. Sengun's minutes are kind of the most up and down. Not really sure why. Sometimes it's foul trouble. Sometimes it's just him not getting the run. But yeah, I think right now I'd stick with KPJ. The rest of the other guys are just kind of strong secondary options. I think KJ Martin would still be my favorite of that secondary group. And that's really it. Excuse me. No real interest in like the secondary options for me. Moving on to Toronto. Milwaukee should be a fantastic game here. Pascal's been great the past 2 games here. Double doubles in each, almost triple doubles, 25, 14, and 8, and then 27, 10, and 6. Now we get a tougher matchup versus Milwaukee here. I don't think they've played recently. Let's see here. Yeah, last time they played, he went for 23, 9, and 3, 40 minutes, 80, 13. So we know with Pascal, the minutes should be close to 40 in a close game. And he's been great the past 2 games. So maybe he's found something. I do think they're running the ball through him more than they were the previous like month. And so he's actually been on fire. So I don't mind riding the hot streak there with him. I think the matchup will scare some people away. So he definitely at 8-7 still is a little bit too cheap. Same thing with Fred VanVleet. He's been pretty solid the past 3 games as well. So I think I feel safer going to VanVleet than Siakam, but I think they both look very solid. Scotty Barnes, Poldo, OG, they're all decent secondary options. I just never find a reason to land on them unless you want to be like super contrarian. But it's like Scotty's super up and down. Poldo's been pretty solid. It's just the minutes aren't great there. OG's been doing better recently, but he's super scoring dependent at times. So it's just hard to land on those guys with any like sort of confidence. And then Gary Trent Jr. has been great the past 2 games. Obviously got 5 steals that last game, which is 10 points there. So I don't know. It's hard to land on him and feel great. And I will mention Boucher just because he could get extended if someone in the starting lineup gets in foul trouble. So right now, I think the standouts to me are obviously Fred and Siakam. That's really it. Moving on to Milwaukee, I think Giannis will be an interesting play today just because there's not a lot of spend ups. Giannis is like $1,300 more expensive than the second highest guy, which is Anthony Davis at 10-7. So I think this could lead to a slate where Giannis is coming in at pretty low ownership if people don't feel safe in the value. And I think that's this is a spot versus Toronto, which he could do very, very well. I think I'm going to expect Giannis to start turning on here the last 12 or so games just to try to, secure the number 1 seed and just kind of win the MVP. So I do like Giannis a good amount here. The rest of the team, Drew Holiday is just a little bit too pricey for me. Same thing with Chris Middleton. If I'm going to get to someone on the Bucks, it's going to be Giannis. I mean, sure, you can land on these 2 if you want to get super, super contrarian. I don't think there's a need. So right now, just Giannis for me. Brook Lopez is questionable. If he's out, we could look to Bobby Portis, who filled in for him last game, got 30 fantasy points. So he looked decent at 6,700, but no real standouts. Joe Ingles off the bench, seen about mid-20s to 30 minutes right now. Obviously, some people were out last game. He saw 28, but I'd say expect at least 20, maybe 25. He's actually been productive recently, so I don't mind him his value there. Grayson Allen is back. If he's back, it does hurt Ingles a little bit. Connaughton, seen about 20-ish minutes. So sure, you could get to the Bucks value, but I don't think there's a need. It's really just Giannis for me. Moving on to the Clippers in Portland here. Great matchup for the Clippers. I think Kawhi Leonard looks like a fantastic spend up at 9,500. He's been super, super solid recently, kind of flying under the radar. 56 4 games ago, 51, 49, and then 52. Seeing about 38 to 39 minutes a game, shooting about 20 times a game as well. Yeah, he's just been super, super solid. So I like Kawhi here in the spot. I think he looks fantastic. Took the last game off. Now he's back. So with that reason, I think Paul George is just too pricey for me to get to. Russ, now that Kawhi's back, his minutes probably will drop back down to mid 20s, and you could take a shot on him at 6,800. I think it's a decent price tag, but with Kawhi back, it kind of eats up all the usage for a guy like Russ, who they were limiting for the past few games, and they were doing well with it. So I expect them to go back to that, where they kind of limit him to mid 20s minutes. So there's really no need for me to get to him. Maybe you could take a shot on Zubac. He's been decent the past 2 games, but we've seen there's no real consistency with him. So if you're taking a shot on him, he could definitely go out there and get you 12 fantasy points. Now that Kawhi's back, the offense is obviously going to run through Kawhi and Paul George, and that's really it. Eric Gordon should move back to the bench. Maybe, I mean, I guess you could take a shot on Plumlee, but right now it's really just Kawhi and Paul George on the Clippers side. On the Portland side, Grant is still out, so I think they still started Watford. He played 34 minutes. He's actually been doing well, 10, 8, and 8, and 3. Now he's 5.1K, so I think he looks okay. Don't mind him. Dame's pretty cheap there, 10.5. Simons, 6.3. He's there. Nurkic, I do have a good amount of interest in Nurkic. The minutes haven't been great, but if he gets extended, sees 30, even if he sees 30 minutes, he's kind of like a J-Val. Like, if they see 30 minutes, they could definitely go off that amount of time. Like here versus Spurs, he went for 56 and 27 minutes. But it's just hard to feel safe with his minutes right now. And that's really it. Sure, you can land on one of these wings. They could have an okay game. But right now, it's just kind of Dame for me. Nothing really stands out besides Dame, and maybe taking a shot on Wofford if he starts again. And then moving on to the last game, Orlando. I've been talking about Fultz. I've been talking about how he's been super consistent liking him in the past, I think, 5 games. He's averaging over 20 points per game. The past 2, 25 and 28. I don't expect that to continue unless he's really, deciding to turn it on. But I think he looks safe once again. Banchero looks decent, 7,200. His price is coming down. Wendell had a huge game last game. So it's just Orlando's kind of just one of those teams where no one really stands out, but they're all just solid plays if you land on them. If I had to pick 2, it'd probably be Fultz and Wendell just because they seem the safest recently. But I mean, Franz has some upside. He looks okay. Banchero, we know he's kind of the most aggressive, just can't really shoot the ball. So right now, I think Fultz and Carter are the kind of standouts to me. Suggs is questionable. If he's out, it's just maybe a few more minutes for Anthony there, who's seen pretty solid minutes the past few games. Now, I know people have been out, so it's kind of skewed, but I think he looks decent there. 5,500 is like a tournament play. That's really it. No real interest in anyone else. I think they're giving Goga some minutes off the bench there, but yeah, right now it's really just kind of Fultz, Carter for me, and I do have some interest in Banchero and Anthony. And then moving on to the Lakers, I think Anthony Davis is still way too cheap here. Had some kind of not letdown games, but he had 45 against Dallas, 50 there against New York, which is solid, but you kind of want a little bit more from him. But I think versus Orlando, this is a fantastic matchup for Anthony Davis. I do really like him. With him back, really takes out any secondary options for me. No real interest for anyone. Maybe you could take a shot on Beasley. Maybe you could take a shot on Schroeder off the bench, but we know the offense is really just going to run through Anthony Davis and D'Angelo Russell. So if you want to take a shot on one of them, I prefer getting to Anthony Davis, but D'Lo's there. He looks okay. So right now, the core 3 plays for me are going to be Bam, Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard as my spend ups. Hopefully we get some value plays. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to really kind of build around these guys with this slate so far. So yeah, that's the video. If you guys like it, make sure to hit that like button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.